Hi everybody, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a video called Tarot Myths. Now, I get a lot of questions about tarot and I felt like, you know what, let me just put some of the most frequently asked questions out there and give you my personal answer. Now, you might agree, you might disagree, but here we go. So the first question that I get asked is, do I have to be gifted my very first tarot deck? Actually, you don't. I feel like that's something a lot of people talk about and feel that in some way that's like a special, way of giving someone a gift. It's kind of like, here you go. I think you're a good reader. You got the gift. And I think a lot of people, feel that that's the only way to be seen as a reader is to have validation from others. Maybe that's not always the case, but some others feel like maybe it's a way of knowing that it's a sign, or that you receiving your first tarot deck from someone is just like the way it's supposed to be. And it doesn't have to be that way because, well, maybe for some that's a very strong belief, and for me it's not. When I started doing divination and reading tarot, I was about 11 or 12 years old. I was somewhere I think I was like in 6th grade. So about that age perhaps. And I'd go to the library and I checked out a book on divination on how to use regular bicycle poker playing cards to do divination. And that's how I started. And I would just use cards to read, people's energy. I would tell them things and, it was a lot of fun and I felt pretty good at it. Even my family and my folks were like, you know what? Have at it, have fun with that. So it was kind of accepted in my house. And then later on, I believe I received a deck from my dad. I was about maybe 15 years old. We had gone to Botanica in Mexico, and my dad was like, here, I'll buy you a deck, pick a deck. And I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. And he was really awesome about it. He said, I think you have a good talent here. You should learn how to read. And here is the very first deck that my dad gave me. Now, this is the second deck that I have from this one. It's actually called the Dr. Morn deck. You probably have seen it around. Maybe you haven't. And this was the very first deck that was gifted to me. And it was my very first, I would say, official tarot deck because it wasn't a playing bicycle deck. And oh my God, I just started, going nuts. I just had to use it all the time. So yeah, I didn't start with a tarot deck and I wasn't gifted one until later, and I'm here over 25 years of reading, and there you go. So you don't have to feel like someone has to gift it to you, because I feel like it's also important to feel connected to a deck. And that was another thing that I felt was important as I got older, because I started buying tarot decks. I was gifted tarot decks, and the decks that I was gifted I didn't really connect with. I would end up giving them away or selling them, and then eventually buying them back because I felt nostalgic, but that's a whole other story. The thing with picking your own deck is that it's a very special bond you create with your deck. If you feel connected to it, if you feel drawn to it, then go ahead and buy it and purchase it. Why not? Because it's gonna just create a better connection between you and your tool. And I feel like that's the most important thing. It's not about who gives you what or how much it costs, or the value is in the connection. Okay, so there you go. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is how some people feel that some tarot cards are bad and some are not. Well, in tarot, cards are not good or bad. Yes, some have a certain meaning, but depending on the order or the way the card is pulled, it can mean that you have it, you lack it, you need to work on it, it's not going to happen, it might happen. Now remember, tarot is all about possibilities, so free will is definitely the biggest action that you have to take on, because if I tell you one thing, you might change the outcome. I never tell people, obviously, when I'm reading that, oh, they're gonna do this. Like, it's not a certainty, it's like there's a possibility you might do this. And sometimes in tarot you need to hear what you need to hear, right, in order to make the changes. Like if I said, hey, okay, let's say I'm doing a reading for someone and they're like, am I gonna pass my bar exam? And the cards aren't looking too great, and I say, you know what, it looks like possibly it's gonna be a no or a low, or you're close, or it's showing in the cards that it looks like a no, basically. And they look at that and they're like, holy crap. And I tell them, well, what are you gonna do about it? now that you know, are you going to soften the blow? Yeah. And they end up studying, they end up passing the test. And sometimes that's how tarot works. So not all cards are good or bad. I'm going to give you some examples of some cards that might be seen as bad, and then some that might be seen as good, and it's not really what you think it is. Here's one. This card is the Ten of Swords, and I get this card often, but I see this card and I'm like, oh my God, okay, here's this image. Someone's laying on, face down. They have all these swords on them. But number one, you don't know how deep the wound truly is. Tarot is open for interpretation, but here's just kind of one way to see it as a positive. Now, eventually, the story of tarot can continue, or the story of this card pull can continue, but there's always the downfall, and then there's the healing. So you could be seeing this card as like, okay, right now you're not feeling good, you're not feeling well, but there's always a healing. You can pull this card when you're not feeling good, maybe after surgery, maybe after something, maybe you were in some danger, but there's a possibility of healing in this card. So it's not always that bad. It can be seen that way, depending on how you view it. Here's another card that might not be seen as good, but it can be seen as better. So you have this card over here about confrontation of self, who we are, our duality. Some people are like, I don't want to face that. I don't want to face the truth. The truth hurts, or I don't want to see certain things. I'm not ready for that. And that could really build up a lot of energy, right? But the beauty of seeing the light of the moon and the truth, I feel like when you know what you have in front of you, you can do something about it. So this card could actually be saying, you know what, if you really look into yourself, if you really look deeply, if you really put in the work, you'd be surprised that in some way, sometimes that moonlight is the shining light that you need to guide you, okay? So you could see it that way. Here's a good card that you might go, oh, I love this card. And, well, this card, is the Wheel of Fortune. I almost said the Wheel of Life. Sorry, the Wheel of Fortune. And this represents, a turn of events, good luck. But, sometimes with turning, the wheels are turning. They're always turning. You might get one side of the wheel that's good, and then it turns and it's not that great. So you might just have your moment and it might not last a long time. So what are you going to do with that, right? So that's another one. Here's another one. This card I love, but I know sometimes it could have different meanings. This to me is the victorious victory card, okay? It means you're going to do it. You're going to get ahead. But this one, I feel like even if you kind of look at it deeply, you see these little wands and rods. It's like, well, who do you have to step on sometimes to get ahead? And we never see who it is. But that's just an example of how cards can be seen as good, evil. But like I said, none of them are good or evil. None of them are good or bad. It just really depends. Those were just some examples just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, okay? So it's really up to your interpretation. Oh, here's another one. The Devil card. A lot of people find the Devil card to be frightening, but some people find it to be a lot of fun, because over here it's, it could be sexual energy, it could be controlling, but for some people that's their kink, and in some cases it might mean that you might need to be a little more controlling of self, or let go of control. So it can be seen either way. So yeah, like I said, it's really open to interpretation. Now, let's talk about tarot being evil. It's not evil. Tarot was actually started as a playing game in Europe. Now, I don't know how it was said. I think it was like, it was called something, it sounded like tarot, but it was in Italian, I believe, and it was used in different parts of Europe. And from what I've read different things. I've read that it was, Italian, German, maybe even Spanish connected. But when it comes down to it, it was used as a playing game. But people started noticing that they would play with the cards, and it was connecting to their life. So it became part of the occult, and people started using it for divination, for guidance, for answers, to receive messages and omens, and that's how it kind of happened. So it doesn't have an evil origin, and it was never created that way. I mean, anything can be used for divination, stones, tokens, songs, books. It's like saying, oh, books are evil because people use it for divination. It's like, it's not, it's just fun. And I know some people believe in divination being evil, maybe for religious reasons and whatnot, but let's just be honest. Tarot is fun, tarot is helpful, and it is what it is. And whether you believe it's evil or not, well, that's up to you. but this is what I think. And I really don't think it never caused any problems. You never hear about tarot, doing anything weird to people. It is a tool, and yes, it can connect to energies, but with any tool, you always want to be cautious and protective, right? You always want to do the right thing, and always, call upon grounding, call upon protection. Now, we're going to talk about reversals. Reversals are something that I do. I read reversals when I read for people, and some people just think it's bad. They think it's bad luck. They think it's not the way to read. I actually had someone a long time ago saying that, telling me how to read, saying, oh, honey, you can't read, reversals. That's bad. That's bad luck. And I'm like, I've been reading reversals for, oh my God, forever. So pretty much my whole life. But no, reversals are not bad because it might have a meaning that extends the energy of the card itself. So for example, let's take the Three of Swords. Now this card, represents moving on, heartbreak, feeling stabbed in the heart, literally, maybe spiritually. It could connect to a lot of things. I feel like cards can connect to the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. Okay, not really that someone's gonna stab you in the heart. I was just kidding with that. But when you think about something like this, you see, oh God, this is not good, right? But if you turn it around and someone sees this, they're saying, you know what? Let's just say someone had broken up with someone and it's been about 3 months, and the cards are showing that, you know what, it's still there, the energy's still there, but it's not as strong, and you're starting to heal, and you're starting to move on and grow. So that's another way of seeing this card as a reversal, and it extends a different energy that can be helpful to you. Okay, now let's talk about spreads and no spreads. A lot of people think that you have to read with spreads. Now, when I first started, I did the Celtic Cross, I think pretty much for a couple of years. That's just how I read. I would do the Celtic Cross, or I would do the 3 card pulls with the past, present, future, the situation, what's happening, outcome. And the last few years, reading at a shop, it's like I have no time for reading, with spreads. So I would just shuffle and I would just throw cards out. That's how I am. If you have ever gotten a reading with me or you've seen me read, I just shuffle and I throw cards down. And I have a very certain way of reading, and I'll probably do another video on that. It's probably a little interesting because it's not the way people think it is. So I don't read things in order, but we'll talk about that in another time. So when you are doing your readings, I do think spreads are very helpful in the beginning to kind of get you to understand different questions, because you might have clients that they come in and they say, I want to do a love reading, and they might not have a lot of questions for you, and sometimes you're like, okay, I've said what I needed to say, but sometimes I tell people I don't ask the questions, I give the answer, right? But sometimes people need a little help, and you want to say, okay, well, let's see. I always bring up relationships because I do a lot of relationship readings. So let's say someone came in and they want to know about their, them finding love. They broke up with someone and they want to know if they're going to be able to heal. And I'm like, okay, let's look at the cards. So let's say I'm shuffling and putting down the cards, and I'm reading, with a spread, and it might be limiting to me, but it might be helpful to some others. Now, in these no spreads that I do, or these spreads, whatever you want to do, they might help you in the beginning. They'll help you think of questions in your mind that you don't have to tell the client, and you just start throwing the cards out and you say, okay, well, here I see that you're going to heal, because you also want to look at the positive things. You want to be honest, and you want to deliver the message, as honest and truthful, and to the best of your ability without hurting the person, because your job is not to hurt people. Your job is to be insightful. Okay. So when you're doing a spread, when you learn these spreads, they help you think of good questions to ask. And with the love reading, I could think of, okay, you wanted a love reading. We looked at your love life. Okay, but let's see, I'm seeing someone here. Oh, it looks like you're growing from this past relationship. It's showing that you have grown into someone who's more independent, or, you feel like you have learned to do other things without this person. And they're kind of like little mini questions that come through. Okay. So that's how you could, think of spreads. I think they're helpful, and I don't think they're bad. I just don't use them anymore. But once in a while for fun, I'll go through my spread books and just go through. You know, sometimes I don't want to ask questions. I just want to be like, let me just do this for fun. And I'm like, that's a good question to ask, or that's a good way of seeing things, because the questions can help you look at things differently. So my dears, I hope you enjoyed this video. You can comment below if you'd like. If you have any questions about this video, feel free to follow me on Instagram, or you can find me on Patreon as well, and I'm going to put them in the description below. But I hope you all have a wonderful day, and you take care. Bye.